Logging in on YouTube and Facebook as well. All right. I am on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And it says I'm muted. Hopefully you guys can hear me. All right, let's try that again. Welcome to Ask Ashley Live. I am here on my YouTube channel, ashley.tube, also on Facebook and on Instagram, both Facebook and Instagram. I'm Ashley Jangro. So you can watch at any of those places. I mentioned in the description that if you're interested in coming on as a guest, you can do so. You can use the link in the description of the live YouTube video anytime from here on out, and you'll have the chance to enter into a studio. And as you enter into that studio, you can check your camera and mic, and you can come on and we can talk. We can talk about anything about your mental health, your child's mental health, or what you had for breakfast, if that's what you prefer. So I would love to have visitors. If not, then as I explained, I will be covering a couple things today. One is a strategy that I use that I love that helps me increase my patience when it comes to my kids. It keeps me from losing my temper or getting overly frustrated or yelling or saying something that I might regret. And so I'm going to share that strategy. And then I'm going to share about a call I had with my coach this week where I had a breakthrough, and they're both related. It's related to the strategy. So I'm going to share that because I'm constantly amazed that even though I teach all of this stuff, I still have major blind spots when it comes to my own thinking. And it's so helpful for me to go to my own coach and have her break that down for me and see where I'm not seeing that my thoughts are getting in the way of me showing up as who I want to be. So I'm going to cover those two things, but I'll keep an eye open. If you comment on the video on Facebook or on YouTube, I'll see those comments. Same on Instagram. And I can answer those in the call. So again, welcome. I'm Ashley Jangro. I am the founder of Mentally Strong Moms, which is a group where we focus completely on mom's mental health so that she can learn the strategies, have an experiential knowledge of strategies and skills, build her own mental strength, and get support that she needs to raise mentally strong kids. I'm really excited about it because I'm just about to launch my second round of the Mentally Strong Moms program. So I'll give you more details on that at the end of this live. So the strategy that I want to talk about that is so helpful for me with my kids has to do with my own thinking. It has to do with what I'm thinking when I approach a situation that frustrates me, that annoys me, that makes me angry, that brings up any of those negative emotions that would probably result in me reacting in a way that I'll feel guilty about later or end up going back and apologizing about, which happens all the time. I do go apologize frequently. And I've been practicing, and I guess it's been about a year now that I practice this thought when it comes to my kids that allows me, no matter what I'm faced with, to feel calm inside. And when I feel calm inside, I'm able to reconnect with the rational part of my brain, with my prefrontal cortex that allows me to make decisions as opposed to reacting out of emotion. So the thought that I love to practice whenever I'm faced with any situation with my kids that might bring up those negative emotions is, oh, they're having a human moment. And I love this thought because I can think of, I was about to say about 1 billion times, but I can think of many times today even that I've had human moments. I think of human moments. Excuse me, I'm going to take a drink real quick. My voice is a little bit rough this morning. So I think of those human moments as ones where I don't show up the way I want to, where I allow irritation or frustration or annoyance to dominate my emotions and I act out of those. Those are just normal human moments, right? And we can probably each think of many, many times where we've had a human moment. And sometimes we go back and apologize for those human moments. Sometimes we just learn from them and realize, okay, that's a situation that I tend to show up acting like a human instead of acting like who I want to be acting like. And we learn from them and we move on. But what I practice with myself when I'm having a human moment is that's an opportunity, first of all, for me to learn and for me to decide what I want to do differently next time. It's sometimes an opportunity for me to go back and apologize and rectify the situation. But most of all, it's an opportunity for me to have compassion for myself because I can realize, like, oh, these are just human thoughts that pop up. These are just human reactions. These are things that everybody has. Sometimes it doesn't make me terrible. It doesn't make me any worse than anybody else. And so the impact it has when I'm practicing that with my kids. So, for example, if I have asked them to put their dishes in the dishwasher, and then I come down to the kitchen and I see that their dishes are all over the sink and they're still in the living room, and they're in places they shouldn't have been, or maybe they have a glass of water that they had in their bedroom and the cup is still up there. My initial reaction tends to be they're not listening to me. They're not obeying. They're not being respectful. And I love catching myself in that moment like, hold on, is that really the thought that I want to show up with? Because I know how I'll react out of that thought. I know that I'll get frustrated. I will use harsh words. I don't typically yell anymore, but I may have in the past. But I'll do something that I don't feel great about. And so I stop myself there and I'm like, hold on. Sure, maybe it's true that they're being disrespectful, but what's a thought that's going to give me a feeling that allows me to show up the way I want to? And that thought is, oh, they had a human moment. That might mean they forgot. That might mean they were really in a hurry. That might mean that they were trying to be rebellious and they were like, no, I'm not going to do what mom says, which is them having a human moment. What my brain typically wants to do, and what I think is pretty common of most human brains, is we want to start looking for patterns. We want to say, okay, the fact that they did that means something. It has meaning to it. It means that something's gone terribly wrong. And we use our thoughts to create a much bigger problem than what actually existed there. So by thinking to myself, oh, they were having a human moment, it's not letting them off the hook. They can have a human moment and there still might be consequences. It still might mean, hey, since I had to take the time to clear all those dishes, tonight after dinner, you're on dishes. There still might be a conversation. It doesn't mean that I ignore their behavior, but it allows me to show up feeling peaceful. It allows me not to show up with tension. And I was actually planning on making a video about this yesterday, but I didn't. And that's something that I brought to my coach because I was feeling off. It was actually 2 days ago. And then yesterday I met with my coach and I told her I wanted to go to her because usually when I'm feeling off, I can still show up and do something. But for whatever reason, 2 days ago, I didn't. And I just kind of wanted to uncover what was going on there. I wanted to figure out what thoughts were creating the feeling that I was feeling that resulted in me not showing up to make my video about kids having a human moment. So I'm going to get to that in a second. But here's what I want. Here's what I want you to picture. I want you to picture seeing something that frustrates you about your kids, seeing something they did or seeing something that they didn't do, and feeling that emotion of frustration or irritation or even anger, and just feel it for a second. And ask yourself, what thought am I thinking that's bringing that up? Again, for me, it would be like, they're not obeying, they don't respect me, they don't care about me. And none of those thoughts feel good. And that feeling in your body is going to drive your actions. It's going to drive how you show up when you speak to your kids again. It might drive how you show up at work later. It might drive how you show up when you're talking to your friends. And you can imagine the kind of behavior that would come from that anger or that irritation or that annoyance. And it's not great. It's something that, again, will bring up feelings later, maybe of regret or guilt that just adds time. It adds it takes up our mental energy. It takes up our creativity, and it just takes time to deal with later. So if you can imagine in that moment instead, seeing that same exact scene, none of the facts about the scene have changed, and ask yourself, what if I thought to myself, oh, they were having a human moment? I have one one-on-one client that would tell me it was over the summer and she would walk in the living room and she had asked her kids to pick up the living room and they would like have their feet up on the coffee table and there'd be dishes everywhere and there'd be like a pizza box from the night before. And she would just take a deep breath and be like, okay, they're having a human moment. Again, that did not mean she let them off the hook. It did not mean that they didn't have a consequence for not following her directions. And it didn't mean that they didn't have to clean that up, but it allowed her to approach that situation peacefully and with compassion. So, um, as I said yesterday, I went to my coach and I was like, hey, yesterday, so again, 2 days ago, yesterday, I was going to make a video and I didn't. And I just kind of want to uncover why. What I was, I'm having a hard time pinpointing the thought that led me to that result. And I just want to have help with why. And she started asking me a bunch of questions. And I told her, I think a lot of it had to do with earlier in the morning, I'd had a coaching session with a one-on-one client that I did not feel great about. I didn't feel great about how I showed up in that coaching session where I was the coach and I was meeting with a client. And don't get me wrong, this client still had some fantastic breakthroughs. They were able to identify their thought that was creating their result, and they were able to see it from a different perspective, and it was great. But I didn't feel good about how I showed up. I felt like some things came up in the session that had brought up some memories that made me feel uncomfortable. And it just made me start thinking about things, and I just felt uncomfortable. And instead of investigating that, I allowed it to mean something. I started making it mean that maybe I'm not as good of a coach as I think I am. Maybe I'm not going to be able to successfully help people. And it's funny because the evidence that I was helping someone was right in front of me. That truth was there, but it didn't feel true in the moment. It felt more true that that because I had had this session I didn't feel great about, that it meant something about me as a coach. And so I was sharing this with her, and she kind of led me through what went on and why I was feeling that way. And I told her, I could recognize that the meaning I was making of it, what I was making that mean was I'm not a very good coach, and that left me feeling really down, really ineffective, which meant I didn't make my video. And so once I uncovered, okay, that's probably the thought that was driving the feeling that drove the actions that resulted in me not showing up. Then, then we were able to go back and say, okay, well, what can you make it mean that you had this session with a client that you didn't feel great about? And I told her, I really put a lot of thought into it. I learned from it. I feel like it's going to make me, it's revealing to me some things that I need to address in my own thinking from my past. And I can go do that. And she's like, so you really learned a lot from it. And I told her, yeah. And she was like, yeah. So really, you had a human moment. You showed up as human, and coaches do that. They're human. And so what if you make it mean that you had a human moment? You learned from it and you move on. And I was like, yes, that is exactly what happened. And it just took all this weight off my shoulders, because all of a sudden it had nothing to do with my future success as a coach. It had nothing to do with the future success of my clients and how I could help them. It just meant I was having a human moment. And it was really funny because, then we were just chit-chatting for a minute, and she said, so anyways, what video were you going to make? And I just smiled and I was like, well, it was on how we could recognize that our kids are just having human moments. And I loved how it came full circle, because I was teaching on that. I had set out to teach about our children having human moments, but I couldn't see in myself that I was just having one, and that instead I made meaning of all of the events that happened. I took meaning from them that resulted in me not showing up in the way I wanted to. So what if I had left that session and been like, wow, okay, that was a human moment. I can see it. I'm aware of it. And now I can move on and learn from it. I would have showed up and made the video that I set out to make. I would have showed up differently in my day. So it was just so illuminating to me to remember to keep practicing those same thoughts about myself. And this, to me, is the beauty of the program, Mentally Strong Moms, that I'm going to tell you about. Is when we are really focused on and practicing these kinds of thoughts about our children, when we're learning the skills so that we can have a better relationship with our children, so that we can help them become mentally strong, it creates a scenario where, as we're practicing that about them, it makes it easier to remember to practice it about ourselves as well. Because as moms, we're often hesitant to do something for ourselves, but driven to do it when it comes to our kids. And so when we're practicing that to benefit our kids, it has such an immense benefit on ourselves too. And then as we practice having thoughts about ourselves, such as, oh, I was having a human moment, and we're able to recover quickly and move on quickly, our kids benefit from that as well. Not just because they have a mentally strong mom that is stable and that can pick herself up and move on quickly. Not just because of that, but also because of the way our brains work. They emulate the people that we spend time with. And so as we are doing that, as we are acting in a way that, we don't allow our thoughts about something to get us down for the entire day and to take us out from a day of work, as we're able to practice a thought that allows us to move on quickly, our kids begin adopting that behavior too. They begin having thoughts that allow them to move on quickly. And that's one of the things I teach in the Mentally Strong Mom program is, as we're having those moments of growth and transformation in our own lives, we share them with our kids. We tell them stories, and that allows us to hold back from entering the teacher or the coach role with our kids. We just share, hey, here's how changing this one thought really transformed my emotions, really transformed my mood, and allowed me to show up even when I didn't, even when I had a difficult situation right beforehand. And as we share those stories with our kids, they begin to adopt that behavior, even when it seems like they're not listening. And sometimes that's hard to believe, especially if you have teenagers. Like, yeah, I share these stories with my kids, but whatever, they don't hear them. And I can tell you from experience, from my clients' experience, even when it seems like they're not listening, when you are sharing your transformation, your advancements toward mental wellness, they are listening. Even if they don't think they are, it's entering into their brains, it's impacting their brains, and it comes out through their actions later. So, as I mentioned, I am launching the program. Doors open March 22nd. The doors open for application 1 week before that. So we're starting on a Tuesday. The Monday before that, I believe, is March 14th. So that is when the applications for the program will open. You can join the waitlist now to get more information about the program. You can join the waitlist by going to ashleyjangro.com, and there's a button right there on the homepage that says join the waitlist. And then you click it, enter in your name and email, and then you will just get more information as it comes out about the program. So if you think you might be interested, go ahead and jump on that waitlist and you'll just get more information. And then you will know as soon as applications open on the 14th of March. And again, I'm just so excited about this program because I say it all the time, moms. I believe that we, as moms, have the power to completely shift what's happening with the mental health of this upcoming generation. I believe that as moms, we have the power to really create a dramatic shift in the direction that things are heading, because our kids are struggling right now. And we don't have access to the resources for help that we might hope that we'd have, because therapists and school counselors and any of these helpers are there's just more need than they're able to serve right now. So moms, I feel very strongly about the fact that it's our time to learn these strategies, to learn the skills that we can apply to ourselves so that we're showing up mentally strong, so that we are being an example, and so that we're impacting our kids, but also so that we can teach them these skills. And in the Mentally Strong Mom method, I teach you how to teach without becoming overly teachery, so that it turns your kids away from it. So again, sign up for the wait list. And if you have not already, please come join me in the Mom Squad, which is my free online community. You can get to that by going to momsquad.ashley.tube. And if I don't have any questions, I don't think I do, then I will hop off and I'll see you here next week. I'm here same time, same place every week, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So I'll see you next week.